Thank you so much for clicking on my video, and if you're returning, welcome back to my channel. Today for this video, we are now recapping the 60 Minutes interview with Anderson Cooper that took place last night. Once again, it was 3 years to the day of Harry and Meghan announcing that they would be stepping back from senior royal duties. So let's get into this 60 Minutes breakdown. Once again, thank you so much for clicking on my video. If you have not already, feel free to go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on that notification bell. I want to say a big hello to the friend circle, to the Patreon members, to the Sweet Discernment listeners, my podcast, and I'm going to curtsy to the royal court, but not the British media. Thank you so much for watching. Overall, I felt like this interview was my preferred format. I felt like it was a little bit more professional, I guess, because they don't have a personal relationships. And I felt like Harry's personality shined a lot more in this interview. I felt like, no offense to Tom Bradby, I have my reasons for thinking Tom Bradby conducted the interview the way he did. Go check out my video. But I felt like Anderson Cooper's just kind of hard-hitting interview style, but just no muss, no fuss, provided a platform for Harry to be himself. I didn't feel like there was a shaming element to it that I did feel like Tom Bradby had. I know that they're friends, so I could just be misreading, but Tom Bradby kind of came off a little judgmental and at times immature when they talked about the virginity thing and about the drug usage. He didn't really seem to understand the value in Harry sharing that, and I'm glad that was able to get out there. But with Anderson Cooper, I just felt like, maybe because I'm American too, I just felt like there was a human on both sides. I felt like Harry was able to be himself, and I feel like he was not being scrutinized before he even spoke. That's just my opinion. So this was my more preferred. My favorite interview was definitely Michael Strahan's with Good Morning America, and we will get the full interview tonight with Prince Harry in his own words at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, which is 7:30 Central. So feel free to check that out. It's on ABC. So we're going to get into this interview. I know William Scoopball Head Ass is upset.
I looked at Willie, really looked at him, maybe for the first time since we were boys. I took it all in. His alarming baldness, more advanced than my own. His famous resemblance to Mummy, which was fading with time, with age. It's pretty cutting.
I don't see it as cutting at all.
We open with pettiness, and you know what? That might be why I like this interview. It felt a lot more like Harry got to be himself. And you want to know something else? How I know that Harry is my Virgo brother? Because as Anderson's trash ass is reading the quote, like the way he maintains like his just level demeanor, knowing he wanted to laugh at that quote, because if he didn't, he wouldn't have picked that quote. There were so many quotes he could have picked that we've talked about, but the fact that he picked that quote and then read it the way he did, that was scathing. I really enjoyed that part. And the reason I know Harry is my Virgo brother is because as it was being read, he said, so y'all know I tried, when the excerpt came out, I wasn't sure if it had been manipulated. I didn't even know if it was accurate or a real excerpt, because there was a lot of fake excerpts that came out too. Thankfully, we only talked about the real ones. Every excerpt we've talked about on this channel has been verified. So happy to have done the due diligence, because I was worried. But I'm really glad that they included this excerpt. But what made me laugh was when I saw Harry's reaction and I heard the excerpt outright, I realized that I was jumping through so many hoops to try and make it something that it simply was not. It was a read. And I liked it. I loved it. I was okay with it, but it was a read. We opened with pettiness and I was totally here for it because they deserve it. So the baldness comment was hilarious. But one of the things that I was very happy to hear was that he consistently affirmed his love for William. I think in both interviews, ITV and 60 Minutes, as well as Good Morning America, all three, he has made it a point to say, I love my family. He loves them. And I'm glad to hear about that, because they don't talk about that. They talk about Harry like he's just this scorned monster, like he's just this angry person. But no, he is talking about family issues. And the only reason that he's talking about this publicly is because that's how the royal family has decided to play. They invited him onto the court to share his piece, and this is the court that he has to play on because they won't do it otherwise. He talks about his early life and how he has a lot of empathy for William and the way that William treated him growing up, because he understands now as an adult that William was a child, but also through his own children, he can understand like the sibling dynamic that isn't just heir and spare, it's older sibling, younger sibling. Because a lot of the things that Harry shares, me and my sister went through too. Like I used to want to hang out with her and her friends, and then when she would allow it, I would act a fool, and then she would be like, you can't come back with us. And so I was never allowed to go play with them because I would always act out as younger siblings do. And also, it's important, and I'm glad he acknowledged this, for children, although you are siblings, to be able to forge your own identity. And sometimes with your sibling around, you don't get to explore the different parts of yourself that are confined to the box that your family puts you in. So he does recognize that William didn't have it peachy keen. He's just not sharing. He can't share William's story. He's only sharing his own. But he showed a great amount of empathy for William, which I was glad to see. And hopefully that corrects that narrative that he hates his brother. Siblings fight, argue. Siblings disagree. Siblings have discontent, that they should not be fighting, fist fighting. He did say that when they were younger, William has tried multiple times to talk to Harry about their mother's passing, and Harry refused. And he didn't realize that it might be therapeutic to talk to William about it. And it makes a lot of sense that he's kind of experienced the type of processing he's experienced as an adult, because he did suppress a lot of that grieving process and a lot of those emotions that he should have worked through as a child. He suppressed them, and then they came back up as an adult, which you will find happens when you suppress your emotions. But William, although he attempted to talk to Harry, which is a good big brother thing to do, and I'm sure it was therapeutic for both of them, it would have been anyway, but William was a child, so he shouldn't have had that responsibility either. I know that they both shared a great deal of empathy for their dad, but let's just be very clear, was Charles dropping the ball? He should have made sure his sons were in therapy. He should have made sure that his sons felt safe, felt comfortable, felt protected. His sons were grieving their mother properly. And I don't know, doesn't appear that that is what happened. He talked about his military career in this interview in a way that he did not get a chance to talk about it in ITV. But he says in this interview specifically that the military saved him. And we have talked about, especially around his birthday, about his many military accomplishments. And that was a really fun video. And we've also talked about Invictus Games. Still trying to get to Dusseldorf so that I can attend the Invictus Games this year. I'm praying a little money fairy pays for that trip. Hopefully, you know, my husband and my parents and my uncles and aunts are all looking at this CashApp, SharionSade. But yeah, the military was a very beneficial experience for him. He was able to get out of the limelight. He was able to build relationships outside of being a royal. And he explicitly notes that in the military, he was not prince. He said it gave him the opportunity to really try for something that he didn't get like a automatic pass on, because there is no automatic prince pass for an Apache pilot. So that was a great goal for him, and he said that he was an excellent candidate. And we've talked about why his career ended when it did in the other video. They've been messing Harry over for a while. He also talked about this specific quote, which is actually one of my favorites. He turned his pain into purpose. That is a very constructive way to channel any negative, or not even negative emotion, just emotion that you don't want to fester, like grief, sadness, pain. I don't think any emotion is negative. I think every emotion has a process, and you can't live through your emotions and you can't act on your emotions, but you certainly need to process them or they will make themselves known. He went into his mental and emotional struggles. So One of the quotes that he had that I was particularly interested in was that he was at war with himself since the age of 12. He had so much anger built up for the press from the moment that his mom passed. And he's carried that with him throughout life, and it's shown up in different ways, in drug use, in physical violence, like he allegedly attacked that photographer. Like, it's shown up in different ways. And when you don't cope with certain emotions, you can begin to either self-soothe or sometimes self-destruct. In his case, he used a lot of substance to cope. He was experimental. But then he went to therapy, and something that he noted through therapy, through licensed therapists, he worked with psychedelics to try and open his mind, and as he said, remove the wall of grief so that he could truly process all of his emotions. And he feels like he finally grieved his mother, and he finally accepted the fact that he doesn't need to necessarily cry to grieve her, but there is a process to grieving, and he worked through that process. And it shows in the way that he speaks about her. He speaks about Princess Diana with a great deal of respect and honor and care. He's very tender with her memory. He tells us a lot about Camilla. Now, Camilla, Harry had a lot of nice things to say about Camilla because he knows her personally. So we'll rely on Harry's opinion and not mine. Because Harry, if you ever want me to open up the vault and say some things, I'll be a royal source. I'll say everything you probably want to say. But that's neither here nor there. He said that he and William begged Charles not to marry Camilla. And he felt that marrying Camilla would do more harm than good, because although they were together, you don't need to do all that. You don't need to do more. But his dad married her, and they relented and they accepted her because ultimately his happiness was paramount to them. I get that. Like, you're not always gonna like your parents' spouses. Sometimes your parents can be swept up, like, because they're human. They're not just parents, they're human. And so they can be swept up in the rapture and be in love with their spouse, or find so many positive things about their spouse, or just be enamored. But I don't think any of those things should undercut being a parent. No, you don't have to do everything your kids say, because kids don't always know best. Let's be very clear. But kids understand their own emotions, and kids understand how people make them feel. And when you're really trying to protect your kid, you will try and speak their language to understand the depth of their feelings, to make sure that you're not putting them in a harmful experience. But honestly, the kids shouldn't have had to tell him that they didn't like Camilla. That should have been a call Charles made. That should have been a more intricate process where Charles went to great lengths to ease Camilla into his family, but also to vet Camilla as a parent. So when he was with Camilla before, he wasn't a parent. And then of course he started stepping out. But as far as being in an open relationship with her, where it's exclusive, it's public, it's all these things where people know that's his lady and he's her man. At that point, they've now taken a step where it's public. And before he did that, he should have vetted her through the eyes of a parent. I think when you date anybody, you should vet your partner on a lot of fronts. As an aunt, I vetted my partners before I met my husband, my boo. He passed all my tests. But before I met my husband and fell in love, I went on dates with people. I met people. And before I would even entertain the idea of like dating them, I would vet them through the eyes of an aunt, because I knew at that time, and I still am, how dedicated I wanted to be to then my niece Jayani, and eventually my nephew Julian. And any man I dated had to be able to meet me there. Would this person in any way impede on my ability to perform as an aunt? And if I even for a second balked at that answer, then they weren't the person for me. And I feel like as an aunt, I did that because I felt like that was my God-given duty and my privilege. But as a parent, I certainly can't imagine bringing a person into my life and not vetting them 100% as a parent, at least for a week, just looking at them like, if my son was here, would he have been cool with that? Like, I'm not saying to just be like, oh, my kids make all my choices. No, but I will say you are the barrier between your child and danger and the world and everything, and their development is paramount before anything else. And that's why I have a great deal of respect for parents who put their kids first. Camilla sacrificed he and William at the altar to gain a rehabilitation of her image so that she could one day become a wife to King Charles and eventually wear the crown.
That she started a campaign in the British press to pave the way for a marriage. And you wrote, I even wanted Camilla to be happy. Maybe she'd be less dangerous if she was happy.
Mm-hmm.
He described in great detail and gave a lot of great depth how it was imperative for her to repair her image to eventually become queen consort. But she was the most hated woman in the UK for a very long time. Like I said in the ITV video, she was hated in the US as well because we like Diana a lot. We really like that Diana. And so the fact that she manipulated Diana and Camilla did that to herself. I think Harry was very gracious in his recounts of Camilla, but she went low and Harry went high. He is friends with Michelle Obama, so it makes sense. He decided to go high, but Harry, take her to hell. Take her straight to hell. She did rehabilitate her image enough to now be welcome as a queen consort. She's got nothing but favorable press for a very long time because she did what she needed to do to appease the gatekeepers. He also shared that Charles immediately liked Meghan and they got on really well, but William, as well as a few other family members, were skeptical. And I feel like by isolating Charles, that was intentional. And by highlighting William and saying a few other family members, one, those are the two people that matter to him at this point. Those are the two people he brings up, and those are the two people he explicitly showed love to. Even when asked, do you have love for Camilla? He said, I love all my family. He never explicitly said, I love Camilla. Let me tell you how if somebody put my mama's name through the ringer, mistreated my mama, how you will never get respect from me. You may get patience from me. You may even get cordial behavior from me. You may even get a smile or two, or maybe even a hi, how are you? But you will never get respect from me. You will never get any. Once you cross a boundary and speak ill of somebody's parent to them, especially if you're not a family member, like if you are on the outside looking in and you speak ill of somebody's parent, they will never forget that. They may be polite to you, but trust and believe at the moment where you need them to be loyal, you are not going to find loyalty on the other end. How presumptuous to assume you can mistreat someone's mother their entire adult life and then expect those kids of that woman to respect you or have loyalty to you. How dare you?
In his book, Harry writes that when he introduced Meghan Markle to his family in 2016, his father initially took a liking to her. But William was skeptical, disdainfully referring to Meghan as an American actress.
Other family members did not like Meghan. They were skeptical of her, which is kind of insane.
Numerous other people was like, he's changed. She must be a witch.
And I'm glad that he pointed out how ridiculous that is. People are ridiculous. And no disrespect to, anyone who identifies as a witch. Like, I never want to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm just saying, Meghan is not a witch. One of the things that he brought up in this interview exclusively is the fact that Will and Charles were very upset, as he described it, furious, that he defended Meghan, that he put out that first statement defending Meghan Markle when the press were just becoming a hound on her. And they said it made them look bad since they failed to protect their wives. And I said this in a former video that I felt like so much of the hatred towards Meghan was more so about their own inadequacies, as well as the women who weren't treated well by their husbands looked at her as who do you think you are, having a husband who's not only in love with you, but protects you. Also, he described the fight with William. And in this section, he said the S word, and I was just like, I like him so much. He is so vulnerable and transparent. I love a cussing royal. I don't care what y'all like. I like a cussing person. Like, I don't want you to be just vulgar, but if you hit me with a little shit or a damn every now and then, I'm just gonna be like, stop. I'm just kidding. But no, he did talk about how he defended his wife, and that's exactly the takeaway that needs to happen. They did get into the sad parts of the detrimental effects that treatment that Meghan was receiving had on her. And he said at the end of the day, he did whatever he could to protect her. And that is his job as a husband, you are supposed to protect your wife, period. Anybody who poses a threat to your wife mentally, emotionally, verbally, or physically, you need to put a barrier between your wife and that thing. And I would assume you should be a little bit more proactive so that you don't have to wait till something happens to protect her. You be proactive. And it seems like Harry did everything he could to be as proactive as possible. He had the conversations, he had the preparation. He told her how to ease into meeting Charles. He told her how to ease into meeting Will and Kate. I feel like no matter what, she could have gotten everything perfect. She could have studied for a year before she met those people. They wouldn't have liked her because the choice was already made beforehand not to like her. Or maybe William liked her a little too much. He did respond to the very common cry from people, why don't you renounce your titles? I'm so glad he finally responded to that so that y'all can shut up. What difference would it make? And he's right. Also, he's a bloodborne royal. End it there. Some of y'all been divorced for 30, 40, 50 years and still keeping your ex-husband's name. Y'all need to be worried about your own names and stop worrying about Meghan's name and Harry's name. Some of y'all got 4 and 5 different hyphens because you've been remarried, and nothing wrong with that. Go find your peace and happiness, because divorce happens and people break up. But I'm saying y'all are holding on to the relics of y'all's past all the time. But these two people, you expect to change their names when they're literally still royal family members. It doesn't even make sense for them to change their names, because even, like he said, there's no way out of this for him. He's still a royal family member. He's just not a senior working royal. Like, how many different ways does this grown man, this royal family member, have to explain this to you people? He is perfectly capable of representing the crown without accepting the abuse that comes with living in the UK. And it's so funny, although they denied their deal, Meghan and Harry went and continued to become financially wealthy and independent, which Meghan already was. And then continue to do the work anyway. He's tried to handle this multiple times in private. We have a whole video about it, so I won't rehash that part. But he says, I've tried this in private and they won't do it. So I'm going to play their game their way so that they can finally hear me out. Kudos to you, Harry, a problem solver. They then talk about the Sun column with Jeremy Clarkson. Now, I watched this scene like 3 or 4 times because Harry's face as Anderson Cooper was reading that quote, I hope he had on a mouth guard because he was clearly grinding his teeth. He looked irritated and angry, and he gave such a classy and measured response. Such a leader, such a royal, but he gave such a measured response, because let me tell you what my unhealed ass would say if you told me somebody said something like that about my husband. First of all, don't think about my husband right before bed. What you doing thinking about my husband in your bedroom? My husband ain't never been in your bedroom. Don't think about him in your bedroom. Let's start there. And then secondly, he is cute, so I see why he on your mind. But let me tell you this. If you out your rabbit ass mind. So good for Harry for holding back, because I certainly would have put a boot in Jeremy Clarkson's chest. Said he wasn't surprised, but he was shocked, as we all were. It was just so vulgar. But he said it certainly proved his point, and he felt like as far as the royal family not having a comment, silence is betrayal. He used Camilla's quote, and he said there's a global pandemic of violence against women. And he explicitly used Camilla's quote and then followed it up with, the royal family silence. At some point, it's betrayal. So you have all these thoughts when it's with other people, but when it's with your own family, Camilla, Charles, William, Kate, Edward, Sophie, when it's with your own family member, crickets. That's betrayal. They then talk about the Queen's passing. Harry was excluded from the plane to Balmoral. He said he got there on his own. The Queen had already passed, but when he got there, his aunt greeted him. I believe that was Princess Anne. Annie is always going to show up, baby. He was at peace with her passing. He said he was just very proud of her life, and he was very happy that she would get to see her husband again. He is just a very heart-centered person. So Anderson asked this question. He says, how can they trust Harry anymore? And with him revealing these things, and he answered very bluntly and very honestly. He said it started because they started this briefing, and in order for them to come back to the middle ground and work things out, they will have to cease fire. And there needs to be a ceasefire on all sides. At the heart of this, there is a family, and he wants the family element back, but he feels like that dragon, that third party, which is the British press, needs to be omitted from their healing process. And Charles, do something. This is your baby. Sorry, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but Charles, how dare you This is your baby. How do you not hear your baby saying, I'm struggling with the dynamic that currently exists. I've done all I can. Please help me. And you don't immediately be like, let me go get my baby boy and his wife and my grandbabies. Like, how does that not? I just don't understand that instinct being missing. But Harry did say he struggled with parenthood. Charles is not a natural parent. But let me tell you this, before you go out here making babies, you need to develop a sense of parenthood. You need to figure out how to be a parent. Resources are available to you. There is no excuse. Just because you ain't have it don't mean you can't give it. You can develop that sense and that instinct over time, but you need to work at it. Do the work. And let me tell you this, when I'm in here recording, sometimes it takes my videos a long time to come out because I'll hear my dog whimpering in the other room and I will go get him, wrap him up in a little swaddle and put him in my lap and record these videos holding my schnauzer because he gets lonely. I can't even hear my schnauzer whimper without me wanting to barrel through a wall to figure out what's going on. I can't imagine my son, like a human child, saying like, Mom, this is hurting me, and me being like, well, what is the it, baby? Because I'll address it. Like, first of all, it might be best I don't have no kids because I might be a volatile parent. Because let me tell you what, I don't care how small it is. Mom, there's a gnat on me. Hold on, let me get my boxing gloves. I'm about to beat that gnat's butt. But you never know. But I'm just saying, like, how do you not respond to a call of action from your kid? Like, that's your child. It doesn't make sense. He is so self-centered. Anyway, I just don't get it. So, 60 Minutes is petty as hell. This is definitely an American broadcast because at the end, Anderson let us know that Buckingham Palace, before they would consider responding, demanded to see the footage beforehand.
We reached out to Buckingham Palace for comment. Its representatives demanded that before considering responding, 60 Minutes provide them with our report prior to airing it tonight, which is something we never do.
He said, we don't do that. We don't do that here, baby. We don't do that. The government and the press don't do that. We don't have that kind of relationship over here. Well, not all the stations. I'll leave it at that. So I did watch the 60 Minutes overtime on the internet. So in that, I felt like there was a lot more great detail about Princess Diana, but also Prince Harry's views as a parent and how his relationship with his mother and becoming an adult has altered the way that he has thought about parenthood, approaches parenthood, but also how he looks back on his mom now that he's a parent. He said that he has learned so much about himself in the last 2 years. He's also said that he is comprehending the position Diana was in with the paparazzi hounding her as a parent far better than he ever did, because he understands his need to protect his children. And one of the things that I loved about Anderson opening up was the fact that he said he and Harry connected on the fact that, you know, he lost his father and Harry lost his mother. So Anderson understood the grief of a mourning child. Also, he said he first heard the term spare when he was a teen. And they didn't use it all the time, but that was something he was aware of. And Anderson asked him about that comment, that widely publicized comment that Charles apparently made to Diana when Harry was born. Charles said, allegedly, "You've given me an heir and a spare, my work is done." Harry feels like the sources that provided that quote to him were accurate, and he believes it. But he said, even as a joke, it's still harmful, and he's right. Said it. I don't care if it was a joke. You said it. Words hurt. People say atrocious things under the guise of joking. That's not a joke, especially to a woman who just had a baby. Like, he also said he doesn't know where his relationship with William would be without the British press's involvement, and that gives me insight into just how involved William is with these people. Like, I understand he's a monarch and he has to have them on his side, but it should not come at the expense of his brother. And anybody who allows that or permits that or is cool with that is a weird person to me. No position in government, no position in a monarchy, no position ever is worth the safety of my siblings. I think you'll find pretty quickly that I will literally upturn a bench or whatever needs to be upturned to protect my siblings, all three of them. I play no games. So I can't imagine not protecting my siblings with everything I had. And even though I'm the youngest in my household, I'm the baby, I would still protect my sister with everything I had. I can't imagine feeding her to the wolves. Listen, You want to turn me into a wolf? Show up for my sister and see what I turn into. He also made a statement that when asked about how the press viewed him or how he thought the press viewed him, a statement he made was that the press thought they could, quote, do whatever they wanted with him. That is a failure on the monarchy. Y'all should have made sure those boundaries were understood and then those boundaries were respected. But at the end of the day, he feels that Princess Diana would want her sons to reconcile, but she would understand the process needed. And I agree 100%. For everyone trying to disregard him on that, you do not know Diana firsthand. You did not know her. You are never going to know somebody more than their baby. So before you open your chucklehead ass mouth to say, Diana wouldn't have said that, or Diana wouldn't have said, you don't know Diana. Half of y'all, like I said before, you don't even know yourselves. But why are you sitting here saying what Diana would have said? I don't even know the people under your roof, let alone Diana. So you don't even have the gumption, the gall, or the intellect to tell Harry what he feels about his mother is incorrect, because you don't even know your own family. Half of y'all got kids you don't even know that well. So before you tell somebody else what to feel about their parent or how to relive their parent's memory or how to speak on behalf of their parent, you need to worry about yourself and your own family. If you don't have support, love, or any kind of positivity to send this grieving man or this man who had to leave his family to keep his own family safe, then I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to hear from you, because at the end of the day, you're not trying to listen for understanding. You're trying to listen so that you can dispel what he said, like I said before, so that you can keep your delusion of the monarchy being this fairy tale place. You are not going to be in the monarchy. You are not going to be a prince or a princess. And them people do not like you or care about you or respect you, because if they did, they wouldn't be lying to you and they wouldn't be abusing their own family member. They don't even have enough gumption in them. They don't have enough self-respect or decency to love on their own family. You think they care about you? While you out here in the streets defending them against their own abused family member, you think you know more than Harry. You think you know more than Harry. Okay. I think that is exactly why y'all are called derangers, because you are literally deranged. So those are my thoughts on the 60 Minutes interview. This was the funniest one by far and my favorite one. I like them all, but I feel like the 60 Minutes one, I think Anderson Cooper is just a masterful interviewer. I also like the way he stares as he's waiting on your answer. Got it. Now I see why Harry answered so quickly when he said, do you see yourself going back to being a full-time member of the monarchy? And Harry was like, hell no. Now I know why. He was trying to get those answers out real quick. Anderson was staring him down. He got a mean evil eye, but he's fun to look at. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I really enjoyed the 60 Minutes interview. Tonight we will dissect it in the live stream. So hopefully you enjoy that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you have not. I am going to go ahead and post the recap for the Good Morning America interview. So hopefully you enjoy that, and I will see you next time.